Yo, what is up guys? It's Pedro here. In today's video, I'll be talking about Ben Johnson and how it is very, very likely that he will be the next head coach of the Washington Commanders, especially after the Carolina Panthers hire Dave Canales. So I'll talk about that in today's video. If you guys are new, make sure to subscribe, hit that like button, and that notification bell as well so you never miss a video. Alright, so let's get into it. We've been talking about head coaches for a while now and going through the interview process, but it really, and the whole time, it's kind of been like, okay, their top target's Ben Johnson, but there's going to be some competition, stuff like that. But the last week or so, everyone's basically been saying Ben Johnson's their number one target. Guys like Benjamin Albright, Boomer Esiason, I know I'm mispronouncing it, but former Bengals quarterback. He also said it's going to be Ben Johnson as the Washington Commanders head coach, a bunch of other people as well. And when the process started, it was very similar. And now the Panthers just hired a head coach, which I'll get into a second. A guy that I thought, would have been an okay option here, or at least a guy that we could interview. But John Keim today said people around the league believe Ben Johnson will land with the Washington Commanders. So he reiterated that. He said that about Adam Peters. He's saying it again about Ben Johnson. And I really think it's going to happen. They're interviewing him again on Tuesday in Detroit with Aaron Glenn. So honestly, in terms of who I want to win the game and for fan, perspective, okay, I'm rooting for the Lions. But in terms of what's better for the Commanders is if the Lions lose, so we can just go ahead and hire him on Tuesday. That's my opinion at least. But let's go into the Panthers, who hired Buccaneers offensive coordinator Dave Canales as their new head coach. Per sources, Panthers offer the job, and Canales is taking it. It will get done. And this probably they like Ben Johnson probably over Dave Canales. I like Dave Canales. I wanted us to interview him. I think he did a really good job with the Bucs, was with the Seahawks as well, helped develop Geno Smith, and even you can say Russell Wilson a little bit. But here's the thing. He's only been a coordinator for 1 year, and Ben Johnson's been 2, and he's been in the league for a long time. Both these guys are young, and they're good candidates, but just for me, I prefer Ben Johnson. But the Panthers were kind of a wild card for Ben Johnson just because, okay, maybe David Tepper decides to throw the bag at him, and maybe Ben Johnson's like, you know what, this is generational wealth, even though regardless, it's going to be generational wealth. But he's like, okay, I'm going to take this and stick with the Panthers and try to rebuild them as, with Bryce Young. And even then, that probably happened. They probably did that with Ben Johnson last year. They probably offered him some money. He didn't want it. They're doing it again. They probably did it again this year, or they just knew he wasn't going to take it. So either one, I think Ben Johnson was their number one candidate. I think some of these teams, Ben Johnson's probably their number one guy. But again, if you know he's going to go somewhere else, or he's likely to go somewhere else, then sometimes it's not worth pursuing him, or it's just you might as well hire a guy now. I think the Chargers might have been interested in him, but I think Harbaugh's a good fit there for them as well. And then the Patriots, they were going to get Mayo anyways, but the Titans, if they had a chance with Ben Johnson, they would have, not hired. I think what's his name, Callahan. Forgot the name of his first name, but Callahan, the son of Bill Callahan. So I don't think they would have hired him if they could have hired Ben Johnson. And there's some other options as well out there. And then now, really, after we hire Ben Johnson, or if we do, but I think it will be when, hopefully, knock on wood, because that's been my number one candidate. That's been almost everyone's number one candidate this whole off season. If we hire him, then we got to focus on who's going to be the OC, who's going to be the DC. The DC is the most important because, of course, Ben Johnson's calling the plays. The offensive coordinator matters a little bit, but it doesn't matter a ton. It's really what Ben Johnson, how he calls plays, the offensive coordinator. You might want to have a little bit of a veteran there just to help in the locker room, or you can have that for your DC. But excited to see who the DC is. Maybe they get someone from Detroit, the linebackers coach. I forgot his name, but he's a former player, I believe. He could be a defensive coordinator, especially if Aaron Glenn stays there, which I don't think he's going to get a head coaching job, even though he's getting interviews. Then that job isn't going to open up, and he would take a DC job here, especially probably sticking with Ben Johnson and having a chance to move up in a couple years to maybe being a head coach somewhere in the league. So that's kind of my thought process. So once we hire Ben Johnson, I'll talk about more about some offensive coordinators we could hire, defensive coordinators, special teams guy, and some other things as well. But real quick, a word from today's sponsor. And make sure you guys check out BetUS. First link in the description. They're giving away 2 Super Bowl tickets, one to you and a family member / friend. All you got to do is follow the instructions on the screen and you will be entered to win Super Bowl tickets. It's a great deal. Make sure you guys check out BetUS. First link in the description. You get 125% first time deposit match sign up bonus up to $2,500. It is a great deal. They have so many different sports you can bet on. College basketball today, you got NBA today, NHL, and then of course you got the NFC and AFC championship this weekend. Super hyped for that. All right, so back to the video. Basically, we're just gonna have to wait. That's the reality of the situation, and hopefully, again, it's hard because I do want the Lions to win, but in terms of what's best for the Commanders, just so we can start this process a little bit earlier. Sorry about that. Would love them to lose just so we can, make it official before, if they made the Super Bowl, we'd have to wait another 2 weeks. So basically, 2.5 weeks from now is when we would know, or 3 weeks from now. So I just want it to be over soon. So they're going to be interviewing him on Tuesday. I believe that's the day, or sometime next week. I think they said Tuesday. Not completely sure when it is, but that'll happen. They'll interview Aaron Glenn as well. And then after that, I think they're going to be done. And they're going to, if the Lions do lose, which I think they will, but you never know. If they lose, they'll announce the head coach, I believe, the next day. And they'll have a press conference as well, maybe sometime next week. So that's what I'm hoping. And then, of course, that next week or so, they'll be filling out the staff. So who's going to be the offensive coordinator? Who's going to be the defensive coordinator? Who is going to be the position coaches? The offensive line coach is important. The linebacker coach, all these positions. It's very important to have a good staff. And honestly, get some guys that have potential. You want a couple veterans in there that can help out Ben Johnson, maybe a guy that's been a coordinator before, even maybe a guy that's been a head coach before, but I don't know about that. But just get some veterans in there that can help you, if Ben Johnson needs some support. So that's what I would say. But I'm excited. And get some guys that you can develop and maybe they can be coordinators. And I mean, it's the rule, but some of these guys, if they are minorities and they do get hired, we get 2 third-round picks. So, some teams have gotten a bunch of third-round picks from that, like the San Francisco 49ers. And, we just have never developed these guys. We just have never developed our coaches. And it has been a recent rule, but even though it's been a recent rule, it doesn't matter. We haven't had, good coordinators and, position coaches since like 2013, 14, 15 with that crazy tree there with, Shanahan, Mike McDaniel, and a bunch of other guys as well. Matt LaFleur, Bobby Slowick, and a bunch of other guys. So we'll see what happens, but I am excited, hopefully, for Ben Johnson to become the Washington Commanders' next head coach. Knock on wood. Hopefully that happens. And from there, this offseason is going to start. We're going to talk about the quarterbacks, which we're already talking about. We're going to talk about that even more. And about the coordinators, free agency. Very, very excited because, the Lions are an up-and-coming